Today, Bungie dropped an absolute banger of a TWAB, and in today's video, I want to unpack what this TWAB means for PvP moving forward. There's a lot of good. There's also a serious major concern, though, where it certainly, from the outside looking in, seems like Bungie knowingly published a graph with misleading data to justify a system that many people believe is failing. So let's dive into it. We'll talk about all the good, and then we'll hit the concerns after that. The goal for this video is a 70-30 split between hype and gratitude and concern and disappointment. And so this is not a TWAB summary. Most of the TWAB's text won't be referenced. We're interested in PvP only here. So here we go. Some of these are summed up quickly, so I'll value your time and not unpack some of these things in depth, but we'll do a flyby instead. Blue drops, they're going away. As soon as you hit the soft cap, the blue drops will cease to drop, and instead you'll get extra glimmer. This is helpful for those of you who play for a while and hope and pray that all the blues don't push something of value out of your postmaster. This ultimately means fewer trips to the tower and less time in menus deleting stuff. Less time in menus is going to be a general theme here too, so more on that in a second. Rumble is also coming back as a constant option for PvP players. This is great news, as sometimes you want a more concise, controlled environment where relying on teammates isn't a factor, and you can get into literally twice the amount of 1v1 primary duels and really get a good feel for a weapon without all the other nonsense getting in the way. Thank you, Bungie, for hearing that feedback, even if it is a smaller audience that enjoys that space. Thank you. More good news, Bungie is reacting to feedback on Airborne effectiveness and are dialing the penalties back significantly. While Airborne, now your primaries will be much more accurate. On top of that, the auto-aim angle will be much more forgiving, meaning the bullets will be pulled toward the target more when the target is somewhere in your accuracy cone. So if you're slightly off the shoulder and your reticle is in the open space off the target, as long as the shoulder is somewhere in that accuracy cone, then the bullet will be pulled away from the open space and towards the shoulder and give you a hit. But they noted that if you want to get crits while airborne, well, then you're going to have to put the reticle on the target's head. In addition, they noted controller users will feel the effects of this a lot more since the reticle magnetism penalty is getting reduced as well while airborne. Long story short, without investing in AE, your primary weapons are going to yield a lot more hits now when you're in the air. Not as much as they do when your feet are on the ground, but it'll be a lot more than it is right now. On top of that, the snipers and slug shotties will have their AE accuracy penalty cut in half, and pellet shotguns won't have an inner accuracy penalty at all. On top of that, snipers and slug shotties will have their AE accuracy penalty cut in half, and pellet shotguns won't have an airborne accuracy penalty at all. That's good because your aim shouldn't matter whether you're in the air or not. So again, thank you, Bungie. I'll give you a quick TLDR on SMGs. The ones that have the best range are getting dialed in slightly, right? Bringing them back in. All the others are getting pushed out a little bit more, so they matter in PvP again. As far as pulse rifles go, pulses are getting a slight range nerf, so they'll experience damage drop-off and aim assist drop-off sooner, and they'll also have more recoil on mouse and keyboard. Now, this is actually really interesting to me. Bungie has showed us that they can and will make separate balance changes based on your input device. So keep that in mind moving forward. This is something they can and will do. Also, the BXR Battler's zoom was dialed back from 20 to 18. And finally, with weapon nerfs, we have the sidearm nerf. Well, it's less of a nerf and more pulling the recent buff back in a little bit. The recent sidearm aim assist fall off buff is being pulled back from 30% buff to now back to a 20% buff. So this is still a net positive. It's still a net buff for sidearms, but we're making sure they don't pull ahead of the pack too much. Also, DMT is getting an M&K nerf, so it won't be the hands down, no-brainer, easiest choice for M&K users in PvP. It's aim assist from the hip, forgiveness when you're off the target, and aim assist drop-off range are all getting nerfed. This isn't going to be felt on console really that much, I don't think, but hopefully it will alleviate some of the pressure on my fellow Guardians duking it out on PC. Hang in there, everybody. We aren't even to the good parts yet. Next up, sight and ramparts. The TLDR is get absolutely destroyed, you no-talent butt clowns hiding behind the safety of your walls with max resilience because the notion of a fair fight scares the crap out of you. I'm kidding, of course. Well, kind of. Bungie is increasing the cooldown of your barricade by 70% if you have Sightons on. Are you kidding me? That's not hitting them with a nerf hammer, that's dropping a tactical nuke on them. A nuke literally shaped like a middle finger. But there's more. Those barricades are also going to take 25% more damage. So basically, Sightons may help you win a gunfight here and there, but they won't single-handedly win you a game anymore. Moving on to abilities. 3 abilities are getting hit hard. Barricade, Thruster, and Hunter Dodge are all getting a 20% nerf to their uptime. I don't know why Thrusters got thrown in there, but whatever. Additionally, the Liam Neeson enhanced storm grenades that don't know who you are, but they will find you and they will kill you, they're getting nerfed hard. They'll do less damage per hit, and they'll travel more slowly as well. Oh, and remember that slide nerf they did a while back, like over a year ago? The one that nerfed your stability, flinch, and pellet spread while sliding? Yeah, they're getting rid of it. Basically, they said, yeah, sorry, our bad. You don't like it, and we can't justify it, so it's going away. Heck yeah. Also remember that yesterday Bungie dropped an article that also outlined how we are going to be able to create PvP builds and loadouts and label them for easy navigation. Get a big map? Hey, just click on your pre-made big map PvP loadout and boom, you're good to go. Got a trials loadout? Boom, one click, good to go. Got a small map build? Boom, click on it when anomaly comes up, no problem. Ultimately, this means less time in menus, less mandatory third-party app usage, more time doing the things you want to do. This is something that will save PvPers a lot of hassle for sure. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm looking to do a 70-30 split here. And while all of the video so far has been high fives all around the table to the Bungie folks, there's also something in the TWAB that I think should be a concern for PvP players. Bungie is not doubling down on skill-based matchmaking, they are tripling down on it. But the thing that concerns me is that they had an opportunity to speak to the concerns of players of multiple skill levels, concerns about lag, concerns about the player population, concerns about the impact skill-based matchmaking has had on the quick play vibe and sandbox, which was once defined by levity and now is a fight to the death with quitter penalties and questionable team balancing. But instead of speaking to those concerns, Bungie basically posted a graph that is highly misleading to say, look, our system is working. And then they basically said, we're rolling with skill-based matchmaking whether you like it or not. Let's break down this graph. Bungie said that their goal with skill-based matchmaking is to get everyone around the 50% win rate. Every match should leave every player with a 50-50 chance of winning. Now, in theory, that sounds good. That sounds great. But there are a lot of variables here that I'll get into in a sec. But this graph looks like it only shows one season prior to skill-based matchmaking's injection into quick play, and then the 2 seasons after. Clearly, the graph shows that when Season 18 dropped with skill-based matchmaking, the prediction accuracy of the matchmaking system came down closer to the 50-50 mark. That's a good thing, right? Well, let's take a closer look. There are several things wrong with this graph that I want to point out. First, this graph is visually a little misleading at best, intentionally deceptive at worst. The graph is zoomed in pretty far, so what looks like a dramatic change is really only roughly a 6% change. Not only that, the x-axis isn't even labeled. We're left to assume based on the scale of the graph that this shows seasons 17, 18, and 19. Season 17 was Season of the Haunted. Now, the middle of that season, according to third-party population trackers, showed a massive dump in players where roughly 22% of the player population literally said, I'm out, I'm done for now. And that would coincide with the big spike on the graph that we see here, where the mean prediction accuracy deviated the furthest from 50. PvP numbers weren't all that great. There was no team-based matchmaking. Ultimately, I feel like it would have been way better if Bungie had showed several seasons on the graph before SBMM, not just one. That feels like cherry picking. That's not even close to a full picture. But let's keep going here. This graph excludes a whole lot of data that the player base has been asking for. We keep saying, if skill-based matchmaking is good for the player base, then show us the data. Show us the player counts. Show us player retention rates. How much the average player is playing PvP, and how much the PvP enthusiast is playing PvP, all compared to previous seasons. But we didn't get any of that at all. No mention of it. We had concerns about connectivity and stability and match quality. None of that was directly spoken to or addressed. Literally not a single concern about SBMM was directly addressed at all. Now this may not be the case, but it certainly feels like Bungie dug around until they found a stat value that validated their choice, and they published it by itself. There are two more issues I have with this graph, and stay with me here. First, it assumes that it's a good thing for all players to have a 50-50 win rate regardless of how good they are. Second, it neglects to acknowledge the popular player theory right now that the 50-50 win rate is literally being forced on you. So let's start with number one. I understand what Bungie is going for here, but is it really a good thing for all players to have a 50-50 win rate? What if you're putting in the work, the time, the practice, build crafting, and finally tuning and loadout and mastering a playstyle, and then you go to see if you're improving and you're not winning any more matches at all? There's no change. Your KD isn't going up. You're not really getting any more kills than normal, and you're winning and losing the same number of matches. There's no way to see your own progress. In fact, it's probably starting to feel like you have to perform at your new level the whole time just to tread water. Isn't that counterintuitive? If you're getting better and better at the game, then shouldn't you be winning more? Shouldn't you be getting more kills? Shouldn't your average kill to death ratio start to improve? But instead, the game sees your improvement in real time and balances it out. It's constantly matching your progress with harder challenges to keep you in check, so you can't tell that you're getting better at all. Is that really what we want for Destiny PvP? I mean, I'm genuinely asking here. I really am curious. Is that what we want? Now let's look at the second point. Other shooters are actively using systems that track your individual performance and try to keep it in check. If you're losing 2 to 3 games in a row, it wants you to feel better about yourself so you keep playing. So it serves you up some underhand pitches and lets you knock them into the outfield or over the fence so that you get that dopamine hit. That way you don't walk away, you stay engaged. But on the flip side, if you have a couple of banger matches and you're kicking butt, then hey, that's not good for the other guys. So it has to reel you back in, and the game will put you in a match where it wants you to lose. That way you come back down closer to that 50-50 split. This is sometimes called a reactive matchmaking system, and it's 100% proven to be a real thing. Call of Duty specifically has had to deal with community lashback on it after literal statisticians proved this was how their system worked. Blizzard met similar criticisms from their player base in recent years with Overwatch. Now, this is not proven to be a thing in Destiny 2. Let me come out and say that outright. No statisticians have broken this down in Destiny 2 yet. But some players are beginning to speculate that the 50-50 win rate is more or less forced. So the game is trying to keep you at that 50-50 split to basically pad its own stats to validate its own systems. Now, again, I want to be clear, there is no evidence at this point that Bungie is doing this, none. But players are starting to wonder. And I'll be interested to see if any potential evidence comes to light. It certainly wouldn't be unheard of in the industry, but if it is the case, then this graph will absolutely come back to haunt Bungie in a very bad way. I'd actually be curious to know from your experience if you feel like the 50-50 win rate is being forced on you. Do you ever feel like a great match is followed up with a really hard match that you lose? Or vice versa, have a terrible match and then get an easy layup on the next one? Let me know in the comments section. For a third time, I do want to reiterate that this is speculation from the community. It is a working theory for some people. It's far from being confirmed and doesn't have genuine traction as far as I know. In fact, at a quick glance at my own match history, it looks like I'm sitting at around a 65% win rate in quick play in the last couple of weeks. So I'm not even sure that my own data can support this. But I'd love to do some digging, look at the matches that I have lost, when they come, do they come at the end of a win streak, how bad do we lose, what are the chances that these third-party trackers are giving my team against the other team. I should break that down soon, but I have not yet. So there you have it. That's my 30% negativity from the video. There's a long list of things that I love, a short list of things, a very short list of things I'm concerned about, and why. Bungie is staying committed to skill-based matchmaking, and when presented with the opportunity to really zero in on some data points people have been asking for, they instead presented a graph that arguably shows progression towards a goal many people think isn't even what's best for PvP. Frankly, a better 50-50 split could have been achieved with some outlier protection and a simple reworking to the way the game chooses who goes on what team, aka lobby balancing. In addition to that, team-based matchmaking as well could have had a similar effect on its own. But anyway, that's the video, folks. A lot of good, a little bit of bad, and some concerns. Let me know what you're thinking in response to this TWAB. What's your general attitude towards PvP moving forward? Let me know in the comments section. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.